Greetings and strangulations, sports fans, and welcome once again to the Mask Fan Attic, where we look for cool and interesting old masks. Tonight's mask is a real classic, Don Post Studios classic that was in production for many years, and it's called simply The Old Vampire. That's right, Old Vampire. Now, the Old Vampire first showed up in around 1975. Wow, he is an old vampire, you see? Around 1975. What's he based on? Well, I'm glad you asked that. He's based on the Dick Smith makeup worn by actor Jonathan Frid, who played Barnabas Collins on Dark Shadows, the soap opera on television, and also in the movie from 1970, House of Dark Shadows. Now, in the show and in the movie, there is a sequence of events with Barnabas where his true age catches up with him, and he becomes like 150 or 175 years old, much like me. Most of the time, he looks like an average 40-year-old guy, but then when his age catches up to him, he becomes this very wrinkled and withered and shriveled up, wrinkled old man. And this was actually sculpted by the fantastic Bill Malone. That's right, the same Bill Malone who directed features like Scared to Death and the House on Haunted Hill remake and Parasomnia and some other cool stuff. He was sculpting masks busily for Don Post Studios back in the 1970s, and this is one of his creations based on Dick Smith's makeup. There was actually a slightly different version available right before this one, but it was only a few of them were made, that first version, because it looks almost identical. It looks just like it, but it's a little smaller, and it was a little too small. And pretty early on, they gave up on the little one because people just weren't going to be able to get it on over their heads. So they had to, resize it a little. But I've always liked this character, and it did usually come with punched-in little individual, poked-in, inserted little clumps of hair like this. And it was in production for a very long time, from the mid-70s right up until, I kid you not, 1989. Wow, it was in the Don Post catalog all that time, and it was always popular, I think, not only with people who were fans of Dark Shadows and Barnabas Collins and all that, but I think it was popular with haunted houses and Halloween attractions and so forth, for other reasons, like a creepy old man who's a vampire is just kind of a cool Halloween image, just kind of a cool spooky character. A creepy old man with fangs and a little bit of blood. However, the ones that were made for sale at the Disney theme park magic shops they had back then were made without the blood, because the Disney people didn't want blood on them. So if you see one that doesn't have blood on his teeth, it's probably either was custom painted by somebody who didn't want blood on the teeth, or it was possibly sold at one of the Disney magic shops where they ordered theirs bloodless. Now, again, this guy was available from 75 to 89, and then in 1990, a newcomer came along. Now, here's where it gets confusing for you noobs, but I will try to sort this out. Okay, the one called Old Vampire, this one, is supposed to be Barnabas Collins from House of Dark Shadows. Okay, but the mask that came out in 1990 called Barnabas, ironically, is not really an accurate rendition of Barnabas Collins from Dark Shadows. He's another old vampire, and people get confused, and because he's so close, people think the Barnabas one is really Barnabas Collins. But you see, the Dark Shadows people didn't make up the name Barnabas, right? It could be Barnabas Schmidlap, or an entirely different Barnabas. But in any case, that one is not really as accurate in terms of resemblance to the character as the one that's just called Old Vampire. So you'd think it would be the other way around, right? That Barnabas would be Barnabas. But no, Barnabas is actually less like the movie than Old Vampire, who is a lot like the movie. Now, Barnabas, which I don't have one here, let's get a picture up here of the Barnabas mask, which is very similar to this one, but less movie accurate, okay? Let's get a look at Barnabas, and then, all right, now that mask was in production for quite a while too, right up until, from 1990, right up until 2001, at which time this mask was reintroduced as part of the Don Post Retro line, which was a series of, well, as the name implies, older masks being reissued for collector purposes and Don Post fans. And to their credit, the version that came out in 2001, and it was in production for about 3 years at that time, at that point, it really looked just like the originals. The only difference was the latex wasn't as nice. The quality of the rubber just wasn't as good in 2001, 2002, 2003 as the latex they had been using back in the 70s when this guy first made his debut. So the best versions of this mask are the 70s ones, because in the 80s the quality of the latex started to decline. Toy boat, red leather, yellow leather, blah. Okay. So the best ones are the older ones, although of course confusingly the older ones are going to be more decrepit and aged and so forth, and may not be holding up so well. So if you find one online or something that you want to add to your collection, please ask the seller about the quality and make sure it's still in good condition, because when you find one of these that is in good condition, kind of one of the coolest vampire masks ever. And again, a real Don Post classic. Showed up all over the place in the 70s and 80s. This showed up at every haunted house and Halloween attraction, and you know, all those lots of Halloween events had the old vampire. Whether people knew it was supposed to be Barnabas from House of Dark Shadows or whether they didn't, everybody loved the old vampire. Sure, it's too bad not everybody loves the old mask maker guy. But anyway, yeah, old vampire, quite a lot of history there in him. And right now he's indicating to me that he's tired and he's had enough of this attic business for tonight, and he wants to go back to his coffin and relax. So let's just let him do that, shall we? See you next time.